Let's talk about
some aspect of movies. What do you?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you because this morning I brought my kid into the little green screen here that I have and just put him in the chair and messed around with, that and have fun with my kids and all that. And, this isn't really movies, but I was going to ask because I've done a couple little short films with my kids. Yeah, did you ever mess around with like making little family films?
I did.
Stuff?
No, I did some short film stuff. Yeah, I mean, I always was interested in cameras and stuff like that. And of course, when I grew up, before videotape, actually, we would make 8mm, it would start with 8mm. Then I got into 16mm, which was more professional, but really more like student films, the kind of stuff you do in college and stuff like that. But I do have films that even 16mm films of my kids that I put together years ago.
Not just home videos, like you actually
not just home videos. Exactly. And once videotape came in, my kids, David, for example, used to make movies all the time, and he made really interesting. He and his friends made incredible movies. They cut them, and they did, they did added music and put all that stuff in. I guess
on film or video?
No, on video. They did it straight on video because that was, there were big video cameras, but they were, with big cassettes, big video cassettes and stuff like that. But they would do these films and figure out all kinds of ways to do effects that without any, special technical ability, but just figuring them out, and doing them by cutting sometimes in the camera and then going to a new location and, doing stuff. Fascinating. But, I think you think of some of the great filmmakers out there, obviously Spielberg did tons of not student, but basically as a kid, he started out making little movies. That's how he got into film, and I think there are a lot of people who have fallen in love with the medium and try to figure out ways to play with it. I think one of the things we have talked about is the fact that something like this, an iPhone, makes it, brings the ability for anybody to be able to do stuff that was quite a bit more complicated. I mean, even when I was a kid, I'd have reel to reel. I would be editing 8mm and gluing stuff together, and it was really a mess. I mean, I still have a lot of the film.
That's actually a good kind of angle for the evolution of things too. So you started messing around with 8mm, and I actually got my grandfather's 8mm projector with his old family holiday film reels. So I was familiar with that early on. I still have it. It's at the house. And then I did the same as your son. I did little videos with my uncle's what was it called?
Super 8.
Super 8.
Super 8 was a better, slightly better because it had a little bit larger format.
Yeah, and I would do silly things. And, some of the cameras had the very basic built-in effects, like putting kind of a gray wash over the image to make it look like fog, and it wasn't like it looked like shit, but it was kind of the effect, or they'd fade out in it.
Yeah, little things like that.
So I'd learn how to do a transition by zooming into the bottle and then zooming back out, but it was all in camera stuff. And then I did start transferring some of that to VHS, because back then you just plug the yellow thing and the red thing into the VHS and hit record. And then I would have two VHS players and kind of edit that way. And now my daughter is very interested in my little DSLR cameras and stuff, and making. She walks around with my my wife's cell phone, and speaks to it as if she's broadcasting to a YouTube channel. Like, this is our, because that's what kids are seeing now.
No, they can do it.
And she recently asked if she could learn a little bit more about camera, so I taught her about aperture and exposure, ISO, and the difference, like what shutter speed does and all that. And she's taken to it. So it's fun to see that, we all had a way to do it at home. There's absolutely no excuse today not to.
No, absolutely. For anybody who wants to learn how to do it, there's so many tools that are easily available. They weren't easily available to us as much, but I mean, even if they were, I mean, it was an evolution, as you say. We went from 8mm to Super 8, which was, and that was just giving you a slightly bigger frame. 16 millimeter was quite a bit bigger frame, and then 35 millimeter was the standard. So, and then I strangely enough, in my own evolution, I went from 35 millimeter movies, to I actually did an IMAX movie, which was
70.
It's
right?
not even 70. It's the film runs sideways instead of up and down, so that the width of the image can be much larger. So it's 8 perf or 15 perf per frame. So that 8.
For those who don't know, the perfs are little holes in the film.
Perfs are little holes on the side of the film, and usually in 35 millimeter, you got a few 3 or 4 perfs per frame of picture. In 70 millimeter, there's more, but in it's 70 millimeter film running sideways. So it's 70
running sideways.
They use 70 millimeter, but they run it sideways so that the frame is quite a bit bigger, and there's no space on the film for the sound is done separately. So
I thought 70 millimeter was 35 running sideways, but there's 70 millimeter film, and then that
70 millimeter film running sideways is that every frame is about the size of a regular postcard.
Holy crap!
And IMAX is 15 perfs, 15 perforations per frame. That's a lot.
That's expensive film.
That's a big piece of film.
How much does a reel like that cost? Do you know?
I have no idea anymore. But again, now that tape and resolution has gotten to be so great on digital, you don't need it anymore. No. I mean, you can still shoot it, but it
is getting better and better. There is. I mean, this is one of those really pretentious kind of things, but like there is with film this kind of organic nature to it, in that you have to make digital footage look. You have to sort of degrade it to give it a bit of almost like a more pleasant aesthetic.
No, it's done
too sharp sometimes.
It's done. Yeah, it can be now because basically one process is a chemical process, the other process, digital, is not. So the chemical
those little
process,
imperfections, those little blips.
Well, the chemical process has a certain amount of pixels, and now that we've gotten to the level where pixels are the images are made up of pixels. Yeah. What you now have, and it's only been in the last 10 years at most, that you got more. Actually, you can have more pixels digitally than a film image. It didn't used to be that way. So that early video had much lower pixel content than film. Now it has higher, so that as you say, the picture is too sharp, and you have to, it's too. It looks. It's almost super real. Yeah. You have to degrade it to make it look like film, because film is already something that people have taken
used to. And I think that subconsciously you want to kind of see something that doesn't necessarily resemble reality, unless you're watching a game or something. You do kind of want to be taken into a bit of a magical world. So when the colors are not quite realistic and it's not, it's got that dreamy sort of. It's not sharp, but you know what I mean. It's hard to describe.
It's an interesting thing too, that different countries work differently. I mean, in television, for example, in the U.S., when you were doing things, when they started doing it all on videotape instead of doing it on film, they did everything in that medium. England didn't do that. So what they do is, if you were doing a television show, the interiors would be shot on a stage with videotape, and then they'd go out and shoot exteriors on film, and they'd put them together, and they looked very odd because you would, in the same show, you would see
could really match them.
The people outside were shot on film, but when they were inside, they were shot on video, because they didn't have small enough cameras at the time. They were using big TV cameras. So when they went outside, they could use smaller cameras and shoot on film. But it never matched. Yeah.
Another thing that might have had to do with that, too, is the other thing that you now get more of in digital, which you didn't get on film, and it took a long time for digital to surpass film, is latitude or dynamic range, meaning from bright to dark. So with early video, remember, you would shoot in a room like this, the windows would be completely white and blown out, and your face would be so dark.
Yeah.
So film still had that range, and now with new cameras you have incredible range.
Yeah, the range is even better. Anyway, those are but those are all interesting things about the transition. I was thinking, yes, I think that the barrier for entry to get into making films is easier.
Not just, I will add too that now it's not just that the filming itself is easier because it's on your phone. You can literally write in script format on your phone. Then you can previs that with apps. You can lay out storyboards and shot lists on your phone. You can then go shoot the footage, and then you can edit it on your phone. And you can even export it straight to YouTube or straight to Dropbox or something, all on your phone. Now, I don't personally do that.
That goes beyond my...
Yeah, but it's all there. All the tools are there for that. And you can even composite and remove the background without a green screen with certain applications. So in other words, some of the features that phones have, because so much technology has been poured into these, they have more feature functions than any $80,000 camera on the market. It's just that the workflows are different and you still get better quality out of the end result with professional stuff.